Now, where I was before, starting with Modern Athlete and with Coach Andy, um, I had gotten back from Ranger School a year and a half, 2 years before reaching out. Um, I kind of did the same types of things that I had done to prepare for Ranger School, using some of the Ranger like build up programs, using run programs stacked on top of lifting programs, different things like that, in an attempt to just kind of get back to the fitness I was at before going to Ranger School. And just none of it was working. I I was beat down, didn't understand why I wasn't getting better, was really struggling with my fitness, cardio wise, strength wise, nutrition wise as well. So eventually I realized that I needed some help and understanding like what had changed and what I was doing wrong, trying to get better. Yeah. I spent every bit of 2 years um, trying to get back to the same environment that I was in right out of the gate. I came home and it was right at the end of the summer. I tried running for a while and started to get some injuries, probably from overtraining right away and not having any kind of buildup. At the time, I didn't understand that, but obviously now, after working with Coach Andy, I do understand what I was doing in those moments. Um, and then I tried to concentrate on lifting for a while, thinking that maybe my body was just so weak that I would struggle. But that was really difficult for me because of how much I wanted to be able to run more than other people. So I kind of let my ego get in the way of really like long term success. So I didn't build a good foundation of lifting or running, and probably overtrained in the lifting and the running part simultaneously because I was doing like two separate programs most of the time stacked on top of each other. And to make it even better, I would program hop within those things too. So I would do a lifting program and then I would do it for a few weeks and then realize in my mind that it was the wrong lifting programs. And so then I would change the lifting program I was doing, but keep the running program. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm not running enough. And then I would change the running program and keep the lifting program. So yeah, I was all over the place, but I had done things like that in the buildup for Ranger School, and it had worked. I think just because I was in a different point in my life at that point, and that was my job was to prepare for Ranger School, living on a base for 6 months up to that point. Yeah. CrossFit fit in the picture for me in my mid 20s. So it had a really heavy influence on what I thought right looked like though for like a military build up. And so there were a few times that Modern Athlete podcasts, things like that, Coach Andy would talk about the differences in CrossFit and the differences in like actually training and what that looks like and why CrossFit can be helpful in some instances, but it also can be hurtful in other instances without having like goals and long-term success in mind. And I think it had been a long time, 8 or so years since I had competed in CrossFit. But in my mind, I still had that mentality of every single workout needs to be something that at the end of it, I can barely stand up. And if I didn't puke, then I was a little bitch and I shouldn't have worked out even because I didn't work hard enough. Some of the goals that I had hoped to achieve with Modern Athletes Help was, the big point I realized that I didn't have good goals, other than just like try to get back in the shape that I was in before going to Ranger School. So I decided that I wanted to try to do a build up to compete in the best ranger competition. So that was really my big goal, was to try to get back in the shape that I needed to be able to actually go and actually compete in the best ranger competition and do it in the time frame that made sense. Understand what that looked like, understand if it was a 6 month build up, if it was a year long build up for me where I was at that point. in my life. And so having the ability to work with Coach Andy to understand, like, hey, here's where you need to be, here's where you are, and here's a realistic time frame to get there if you work hard, was really, really helpful too. Is it just set really good expectations for myself on the timing and the dedication that it would take to go from where I currently was to where I wanted to be. Modern athlete, and specifically Coach Andy, helped kind of guide me along the path and really helping me understand where I was failing and trying to write the programming on my own. I was program hopping, stacking programs on top of each other, trying to add things to it because the program that I had in my mind didn't have enough of something, but it needed this and that. When in reality, none of those things were true, and I was just getting in my own head 90% of the time. But having someone there to help you understand the specifics of why the program is written the way that it is was really helpful for me because then I could actually buy into the specifics of like why I'm doing a run at the pace that it's programmed at versus as fast as I can every single time, like what the progression looks like week over week and why, I don't go to failure every single time on the lift, but I, have two reps left in the tank or whatever the week is. There's a reason for it. There's a buildup for it. And over the course of time, it allowed me to understand, there's a purpose for this workout, even if it isn't that I fail at the squat today. Um, there's a purpose for this workout, even if I don't puke my guts out at the end of this run. It's helping me because my heart rate is in a certain zone, and that's super important for the longer runs that I need to do. Then the next day, the heart rate needs to be in this zone. And those were just little things that I didn't understand that would prevent me from really buying into a program. So now that I understand those things, it's really easy for me to look at something and really ask myself, why is it programmed like this? Coach Andy would answer the questions if I didn't know. I asked every single time because I just needed to understand it to buy into it. And whenever I understood the why behind it, you just got to go out and execute on that plan, and the results are there. Yeah, a key experience or moment that was extremely impactful for me during the time working with Coach Andy was the last workout where I was testing my 5 mile. I had worked really, really hard going up to Ranger School to get my 5 mile to a point where um, it was really, really solid. And I really struggled to come anywhere close to that for the 2 years I worked at it before coming back to Coach Andy after I got back from Ranger School. You know, buying into the runs, doing exactly the pacing along the way. Over the course of the 12 weeks, I was able to reduce my 5 mile run time by more than 4 minutes throughout that entire time frame. Just seeing the results, being able to run that time and it feel like a really solid 5 mile too. It wasn't a 5 mile where at the end of it, I was, rolling on the ground or anything like that. Like I put out a lot of effort, but the effort that I put out was the right amount of effort to be able to improve, not hurt myself, and then get going the next day right into the next cycle to continue the trajectory that we were on with the improvements that we were able to make. Hesitations before joining really was just making sure that um, I had a period of time that I could buy in and I could really learn and ask good questions. Being in the National Guard at the same time, I just felt like it was really important to make sure that I wasn't going to have a time where, for what I could see at least, I was going to be able to buy in. I wasn't going to have any crazy things going on that would pull me away. And so that was really my only hesitation was like trying to make sure that the timing worked right. And I ended up actually realizing that I was going to be going to Hungary for a period of time to do some training. So I ended up doing nutrition training with Modern Athlete before working with Coach Andy because I knew that I could overcome some of that nutrition stuff and it would be a good opportunity to talk about that. But I wasn't going to be able to work out at all in the normal way while I was over there. We did rucking and the normal things like that, but it wasn't the time to try to improve a run. So there were other options that I saw on the table to continue to improve my knowledge base. That paid off in the long run. Working with Coach Andy, after having the base knowledge of the nutrition part of it too, I was able to still eating a large amount of carbs and um, calories, able to drop 14 pounds in the 3 months that I was working with Coach Andy too. I would describe my overall experience working with Modern Athlete as an extremely positive experience. Um, the all the coaches, the information, especially Coach Andy, was really great to be able to help me overcome a lot of the mental roadblocks that I had from not understanding why I wasn't improving at the rate that I wanted to. I learned a ton through the nutrition coaching, through working with Coach Andy as well, to the point where like I can look at a workout now and dissect like why I'm doing certain things and really um if if I see things that don't align with what we were talking about, it really makes me question like the whys behind it. I'm able to understand a lot more about the pacing on runs that I want to do. Um like week over week progressions in running is a big thing that I learned a lot about and the importance of those heart rate zones, how to calculate those, why they're important, where to stick to during certain types of workouts. Those are all really, really important things that I think the Army doesn't do a good job at all. If you look at the Army, most of the time, whenever we go out as a group, we're super egotistical whenever we get together, and our goal is just to beat our buddy that's to our left and our right. So we're running max heart rate almost the whole time. And that really isn't the way to improve, your 5 mile run is to match your heart rate within the first, 15 seconds and talk crap to your buddy the whole time you're running just to try to get him to slow down. I learned so much that uh, it's really, it's really invaluable experience to be able to understand the whys for me and the way that my mind works. The aspects of working with Modern Athlete that I found the most beneficial, was like Coach Andy taking the time to really understand like who I am and the barriers that I had that were preventing me from improving and becoming more of the athlete that I wanted to be. And then tailoring our communication around those specific things. He was available all the time. He answered my questions. He would preemptively reach out to me and, give me some tips about a workout that was coming up if he knew that it was an area that I was struggling in. Um, Coach Andy was available for me whenever I had days where I didn't want to work out. He came to me multiple times and just shared his struggles with very similar things that I had, which was really helpful for me to understand that like these things aren't things that I'm going through by myself, but we have the opportunity to make the decisions of how we react to those feelings and we can decide that those are feelings that we have, but we have a job to do, and our job is to take the data that we need, become the person that we want to become, and really push ourselves through those barriers. And that's a big difference that I learned is everybody has those moments, but pushing through those barriers is really something that Coach Andy helped me with by just being a good human and helping me see that I'm not alone out here. I would definitely recommend Modern Athlete to anyone who's struggling with program hopping, with just blindly following workouts and really not understanding the why. Even if you're getting okay results by doing different workouts, if you don't really understand the why behind the very specific things that you're doing, and you haven't been forced to like really decide what your goals are, with being an athlete, being, whoever you are, whether it's a firefighter, police officer, in the military, it's a huge benefit to just have open conversations with someone where you're forced to really decide like what you want to do and then learn the specifics of what has to happen during workouts to be able to make those things happen and close the gap between where you are today and where you want to be in the future. To someone that is out there that's undecided about um, modern athlete, I would just say, there's always going to be reasons why not to do different things. There's always going to be excuses. There's always going to be barriers. There's always going to be things that are going to get in your way of becoming um, that person that you want to be, or uh, learning more about, who we are as athletes in whatever realm you're in. Um, but overcoming those obstacles, gaining knowledge, knowledge is power. And, being able to work with a group of people, especially with Coach Andy, that you know have lived this life for such a long time, and going into it with an open mind and completely removing like your ego from the scenario, just trying to learn. Um, there's nothing that can overcome that. I learned so much. I'm going to be a better person, a better athlete, a better leader to my troops. Because of the knowledge that I have, I can share that knowledge with them whenever they're struggling with similar things that I was. Those are all things that, you know, that they don't end after you're done working with someone. So whether you come in and you're going to work with someone for, an initial 12 weeks to learn and grow as a person, or you really need the whole enchilada to work with someone for a year or 2 years or whatever the case may be, there's a huge amount of value in any of those scenarios. So whichever one you decide, you're going to gain a lot of knowledge and growth from that.